Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all here and great to see everybody online as well. It's another wonderful Tuesday where we gather. My name is Alain Barker, and I'm very honored to be here introducing the program and enjoying it with you as well. So in memory of our wonderful friend Owen Johnson and his commitment to the legacy of World War II correspondent and IU legend Ernie Pyle and his passionate belief in the unifying power of peaceful dialogue, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Thank you. We have a lot of guests with us today. Marilyn, would you like to come up and introduce our guests for us? Marilyn Wood's going to come to the podium. Thanks.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome a number of guests here in the Fred Japan room. And since we have such a long list, I'm just going to name names here. So Jill Bond from the Herald Times editor. Kyle Johnson, brother of Owen Johnson. Brother Johnson Elliott, Owen's daughter. Lane Elliott Johnson, daughter of Owen. Robbie Pura. Madeline Hutt, J.T. Roy, Claire Carson, and Peyton Hyde. Thank you all for being here, and please, you're welcome to return at any time. I'd also like to ask Joy if she has anyone to introduce from Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Marilyn. And might I add, we're having a bit of trouble hearing on Zoom. Are you hearing me?
Hi, Joy. Yes, we are hearing you, and I see that we've got the microphone correctly.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to mention that, but we were having trouble hearing who the guests were.
Is it just that it's soft, or what is it?
Okay, well, if you can hear me while you're messing with the volume on your end, let me welcome our Zoom guests this afternoon, all guests of Jim Bright. Warm welcome to Jaquita Roberts, or I should say Jaquita Joy Roberts with IU. We're glad to have you joining us. And then Charlene and Trevor Brown are joining us as well. And then, of course, Ann Bright is joining us. So glad to have you all on Zoom this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Joy, I've changed the microphone here. Can you hear us now?
Yes, that sounds better.
Okay. So what I've done is I've changed the microphone to the computer mic, which means that you won't hear sound from the room, but you'll probably hear everything from the podium. So hopefully that will work. Good. Well, so I would like to invite the one and only Jim Bright to join me at the podium to talk about Owen. Thanks.
Thank you, President Alain, and welcome everybody. A special welcome to our guests, a special welcome to the Owen Johnson family. It is indeed an honor to share with you just a few of my many thoughts on our good friend and fellow Rotarian, Owen Johnson. Among other things, Owen was an IU professor who trained hundreds of students to be professional journalists around the world, emphasizing accuracy, fairness, and the highest of ethical standards. Owen was a lifelong collector of facts and stories, and as his brother Kyle says, he used them to make connections between people he met all over the globe. Owen was known by many of his students as Professor OJ. I bet a lot of you didn't know that. And he was known by countless others as the world's #1 expert on World War II correspondent Ernie Pyle. Now, it's hard to imagine anyone more dedicated to keeping alive the memory of a cultural icon than Owen did for Ernie Pyle. Owen talked about Ernie Pyle at hundreds of gatherings, near and far. And even the license plate on his car spoke of his love for the World War II correspondent. The number on the plate, E. Pyle. Now, Owen was born in Madison, Wisconsin, grew up in Pullman, Washington, received his master's and PhD in history from the University of Michigan with a certificate in Russian and East European studies. He was fluent in a number of languages, including Russian and Czech. He joined the IU faculty in 1980, where he taught for 34 years, enriching the lives of literally hundreds of IU students. Owen, as many of us know, was a master storyteller who made Ernie Pyle come alive for his students and for others. As part of his Footsteps of Ernie Pyle course that Owen taught, he used to take students to the UK and Europe during spring break to retrace those footsteps of Ernie in London, Paris, and Normandy. And Owen gave it all. He took delight in the accomplishments of his students. Now, for Owen, clearly success bred success. He brought many of his former students back into his Ernie Pyle Hall classrooms to share their stories with his students. He brought in top flight journalists, PR professionals, US State Department diplomats, even baseball executive Josh Rawitch of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and currently president of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Josh hopes to join us after he steps out of a meeting here in Cooperstown today. Now, to many of Owen's students, Owen was their absolute favorite. No one on the planet knew more or collected more information about Ernie Pyle than Owen Johnson. And in retirement, he continued his research to write and make public and scholarly presentations. IU librarian Rich McClellan says Owen was #1 user of the Wells Library. He even had his own storage locker there, and incredible. And journalism professor David Nord called Owen an academic pack rat. And Professor Steve Raymer said Owen was a force of nature. But he certainly wasn't one-dimensional either. While some people know a lot about a little, and others may know a little about a lot, Owen was an aberration. He knew a lot about a lot. And he was a perpetual student, learning as much as he could about people, places, and things. Now, Owen wrote a book on Ernie Pyle and another on education in Slovakia during the interwar period, and he authored more than 37 scholarly publications in North America and Europe, and he created dozens of articles, letters, and programs for more general audiences such as National Public Radio, the New York Times, and local public radio. And he even appeared in one episode of PBS's History Detectives about Ernie Pyle. And he also published several Facebook pages that garnered incredible attention. No one had a bigger presence on Facebook or Twitter than Owen. Shortly after I came back to Bloomington to teach in 2006, it was Owen who grabbed me by the ears and said, if you want to be able to communicate effectively with your students, Jim, you need to be on Facebook. And I've been on ever since. And I've never, well, occasionally regretted it, but anyway. Owen is shown here with IU Kelley School of Business. Let's see, here in a minute, IU Kelley School of Business Professor Marty Pira at a book signing outside of where else? Ernie Pyle Hall. Now, Professor OJ loved to travel, and he visited more than 24 countries in all 50 states. He often was where the action is at sporting events, at the IU auditorium, at Jacobs School of Music concerts, or at lectures by visiting newsmakers, shown here with President Obama. Now, Owen enjoyed college athletics, especially IU men's and women's swimming, and IU basketball, IU women's basketball especially, and professional baseball. He attended countless games. Owen was a fixture in the front row at IU's women's basketball games, and I will forever think of Owen when I look at that spot on the front row on the east side of Assembly Hall, right there on the court. He served as public address announcer for IU swimming and diving, and he shared his love of sports with his daughters. And by the way, IU swim coach Ray Lewis called me just before I stepped in here today to tell me that he was at the memorial service yesterday at Presbyterian Church, and he congratulated Hannah and he congratulated IU professor Steve Reamer for their wonderful eulogies there. He told me that Owen was the Vin Scully of IU swim announcers. High praise indeed. Okay. He also was a big supporter of J.Q. Roberts, an outstanding Bloomington High School North basketball player whose mother, Jaquita Joy Roberts, worked with Owen and with me at the IU School of Journalism. As you can see at this photo, J.Q. looked up to Owen, and Owen literally looked up at J.Q. And J.Q. recently signed with Vanderbilt, and you're going to be hearing that name. Remember that name. Owen was a member and a ruling elder of First Presbyterian Church in Bloomington, Owen's church where we were yesterday, and he served as recording clerk for the Presbytery of Ohio Valley. Now, as he approached retirement from the IU faculty in 2014, Owen was looking for something to enrich his life, make a difference in the lives of others. He found it right here in Rotary. Owen joined us in January of 2015. Many of us thought he would be a good Rotarian. None of us knew how good. Owen was good for Rotary, and Rotary was good for Owen. During the next 7 years, Owen volunteered to support Hoosier Hills Food Bank, Salvation Army, Rotary Toast. He wrote for our club newsletter, Roundabout, served on many committees, served as editor of our district newsletter. He embraced Rotary's four-way test +1. He attended district conferences and the Rotary Leadership Institute. He looked forward to the day that Rotarians would eradicate polio from the face of the earth. Through his generosity, the Rotary Foundation, he became a Paul Harris Fellow. He looked forward to working with fellow Rotarians to support our club's new effort to help Afghan refugees settle in Bloomington. On the Saturday before his passing, Owen was at Kroger College Mall accepting donations of money and school supplies for Teachers Warehouse. Wonderful goodwill ambassador for Bloomington, for the state of Indiana, for the USA. Visited clubs in Ukraine, Czech Republic, Greece, France, and many other faraway places. Served on the program committee, and on many Tuesdays, he was standing right here at the podium or on Zoom, introducing his guests, sharing a reflection, trying to help people make sense of this crazy world in which we sometimes live. He attended the first ever meeting of the new Bloomington Rotary Book Club just a couple of weeks ago, and he was so excited to see that bud and blossom. And he was often right out there asking questions that needed to be asked. Owen's passing generated literally hundreds of tributes on his Facebook page, including this one by Charlotte Zitlow, who said, "It's hard to imagine this club without Owen. He's irreplaceable. No one brought in better speakers. And who will ask those tough questions now?" Charlotte, you're right. It's going to take more than one Rotarian just to try to step up and fill those Owen Johnson big shoes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That was really wonderful. And thank you, Jim, for everything that you do for Rotary as well. Incredible guy. It's amazing just going through all of this and hearing about Owen. And likewise, Mark Kellum's earlier in the week is just how extraordinary Rotary is and the quality of people this organization brings in and how much we treasure everything that they do. So I want to thank you all for being who you are as well. In memory of Owen, as you probably know this already, but I just want to mention, we have the 2080 program in Rotary, in which $20 each quarter is applied to your bill, amounting to $80 a year. And you're welcome to contribute more, obviously. Please let Natalie know if you're interested to contribute to this fund today or at any time. And the proceeds are used by the foundation to support scholarships and other club initiatives. So just want to let you know that that's available to you. Wow. Okay. Member updates. So we had our time with Mark Kellums. That was very special at the Catholic Church last week. It was an extraordinary event. And thank you so much to all of you for being at both services. It was wonderful to see how many Rotarians showed up for both events. Congratulations to Phil Eskew. He's at our meeting today after having had surgery last Friday. Yet again, somebody who always comes to Rotary meetings. I think it's 41 years. Amazing, amazing. We have an opportunity tomorrow to say farewell to Kelsey Lechner as she travels to London. If you're interested, the Bloomington Sunrise Club has their meeting at 7:15 tomorrow morning. And you'll be able to see her then as she bids farewell to her for the year to study there. And I think, Jim, you've already shared information about that, or we'll have it, get it to you. Rotarians in the news, a recent article in the Herald Times about Stonebelt, actually lots of articles about Stonebelt, celebrated Leslie Green and Bitter DeVries. The article celebrated Leslie as she was also, they mentioned that she was awarded the Sagamore of the Wabash by Governor Holcomb, which is quite extraordinary. Congratulations to Leslie. Bloom Magazine include mention of Sandy Keller's recent Human Rights Award from the City of Bloomington. And a full-page story in Bloom focused on Greer Carson, who's with us today, as he takes on his role leading the Bloomington Monroe County Library. So it's great to have you with us, Greer. And Katie Beck's husband, David Davila Gonzalez, was celebrated with his Mixando Latin Fusion Band. So it's great that we are also creating in the musical world. A few club updates. Maybe just quickly run through those as well. Actually, I'll tell you what, we're going to jump to JT Waring, who's with us today. Lauren, would you like to come up and introduce our guest? It's really special to have you with us. Yeah.
Thank you, Alon. Just to briefly introduce JT, he is a native of Bloomington, 6 generations on both sides, 48-year Rotarian, current member of board of directors of the Rotary Club of Los Angeles. He's the founder and CEO of the Rotary Myanmar Villages Water Management System project since 2005, which our club is very familiar with. He's a recipient of the RI Annual Service Above Self Award. He's the recipient of the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for Rotary Service and many other acknowledgments from Rotary and other organizations. But we want to hear an update from JT and all he's had going on over the past few years. And since, gosh, it's been 4 or 5 years since we did a water project with you, and look forward to hearing more. JT Waring, everybody.
Thank you, Lauren. I can't leap up on the stage quite as vigorously as you can, but President Alon, Governor Eberle, it's a real honor to be sharing the lectern with you today. I'll be brief because I've been told I'll be hooked off the stage if I'm not. First off, this Gary shirt that I wore today is significant, and I brought it special for you guys because this was the RI annual meeting theme shirt in 2008 when my club, LA5, was the lead host of that annual meeting. So this is for you guys. You got to put on your sunglasses. One other item that I will give to Jim Bright to deal with, but I learned just before I left Los Angeles a week and a half ago that I am not the only connection between Rotary of LA and Bloomington Rotary Club. A lovely lady named Judy Smith, who is a recent addition to our club, came up and told me that her late father-in-law was a 50-year member of this club, was its president, and was district governor, a predecessor of Governor Lance, in the 1940s. And his name was George H. Smith. And without any further ado, I will present this to Jim Bright, and he can deal with it. It's a very interesting history there. Anyway, you asked me to talk about Rotary, about Myanmar. The first thing that I want to say is thank you, and thank you again
the Bloomington Rotary, particularly the offices of Jim Bright and Lauren Snyder, for the tremendous support they provided in getting us support from this club. And I want to assure you all that despite all of the hugely adverse developments that we know have occurred in Myanmar in the last 2.5 years, the project is not dead. That part I'll take second. As a director of the LA5 and a member of several of its key committees and the founder CEO of this project, I want to assure you that the Rotary Club of Los Angeles stands firmly behind the Myanmar project. Come what may, we're not giving up, we're not surrendering. In fact, the chairman and Nalin Tut, and I should have him stand up for a moment. You've met him, he's been here now 4 times. He is a member of our project team from over there. He is now, having been sort of stuck in the United States, he is now a full-time student at the University of California, Riverside. And will get, if he completes an intense preparatory year, ultimately a degree in information technology engineering. Now, I have an MBA from the Kelley School. I've told many people that I would probably last 4 days in the program he's going to be going into. So very, very rigorous. A tribute to what we do in Myanmar. Further, I was on the border between Thailand and Myanmar about 7 weeks ago at Mae Sot, which adjoins Myawaddy on the other side. The Moy River is a little muddy stream that's about 200 feet wide at that point. I have actually a rare, very rare current Myanmar business visa because the Consul General in Los Angeles, number one, is a friend of mine. Number two, his superiors said, yes, they know Mr. Waring's Rotary experience here, and we will approve your giving him the visa. So I could go back at any time. I wanted to cross the border with my friends who do some excellent humanitarian work at Mae Sot when I was there. That was my objective in going there, in fact. But there had been gunfire on the military's part on the Myanmar side just the week before, and there was a commercial truck blown up on the so-called Friendship Bridge in the crossing between Myanmar and Thailand, and therefore it was not deemed advisable to cross them. However, number one, the team of which Nalin, who is here now as part of our 13-member team, is still intact. We're in contact via Facebook Messenger regularly, and they are very anxious to go back to work. Number two, the project for what was to have been 2021 is fully funded. And we had promises out to 8 villages where we were going to build complete water systems, we thought in 2021 when the COVID thing lessened. But then, as some of you know, on February 1st last year, there was a vicious military coup d'etat to upset the election, which put our friend Suu Kyi's party back into office again as head of state, and that shut down the country. So nothing got done at all, and many of the foreign do-gooders fled. I'm going back, and I hope to return to Myanmar in January of 2023 to pull the team together and maybe begin building sometime during the course of that year. So hang in there, kids. We're still there, and we're Rotarians. We're playing for the long term. Thank you so much for welcoming me back.
Thank you so much, JT. It's wonderful to have you with us again, and hopefully you will return many times more to continue your collaborations with the Bloomington Rotary Club. Very special to have you with us. Okay, so Joy, I think we're going to skip over the youth services. We'll have that next week. As we just quickly run through a few other things, I wanted to mention that we're thinking of Jeff Baldwin, whose father passed away recently. Very interesting to hear about his father. He's been posting on Facebook about him. We want to thank Sally Gaskell. This last Wednesday, we had a fabulous time with new members of the Rotary Club, in which we were able to celebrate with Ruth Boschkoff, who's with us here, Teresa Clare, who was leading guests in front of us today, Vivian Bridges, who's here, Michelle Cohen, Liz Feidel, Jeff Richardson, and we also are very happy that other members have joined us recently, Molly Otto, Beth Savage, John Armstrong, Bennett DeVries, Liz Irwin, returning, Lynn Tiemann, Ben Pearson, Jeff Tines. So it's a fabulous number of people who are joining our organization. And we look forward to hearing from all of you about people who you think we need to reach out to bring into the organization as we travel through this year together. So please don't forget that email that I'm sending out to you with a little link. There's a form there which we'd love for you to fill out. So far, we've had 16 responses from about 3 or 4 people. And that means there are about 97 more people ready to give us some ideas. So please go ahead and do that. Birthdays. Phil Askew, once again, happy birthday. August 19th. Henk Hejema, August 20th. Member anniversaries, Susie Graham, 9 years. And I want to quickly mention that we have somebody by the name of Tyler Nichols who's with us today. He's with Michael Shomas, and we're hoping that he's going to be able to join us every week as our tech guru. So he's going to be able to, yeah, so that's wonderful. Jim, thank you so much for celebrating Owen Johnson with us. Joy Harder, likewise. We're always so incredibly thankful for you to helping us on Zoom. And Marilyn Wood, thank you so much for introducing our guests. The roundabout reporter for this month is Sarah Laughlin, and that is having done it for a number of years, I can tell you that it's quite a challenge to be able to do it every week. And I want to thank her so much for everything that she's doing to keep us informed about what's happening in the organization. Without further ado, I want to welcome our district governor, Lance Eberle. He's a member of our club summit, somebody who we've known for many, many years. Lance was actually the president of the Bloomington Rotary Club when I joined 8 years ago. He's also, I believe, the 12th district governor that we have from this club. So we're immensely proud and honored to have you with us. So let's join Lance in standing up and giving him a standing ovation.
Okay, I'm going to start out by a little bit of an audience participation. And as we know, Rotarians are people of action, so this is not going to be a check presentation, but we're going to take a real brief video of my visit here. So if any of you don't want to be on Facebook or anything, please let me know. But we're going to take this. It'll take about 40 seconds if you can bear with me. And Michael, I'm going to have to go off mic, but I'll be right back. All right. All right, good afternoon from Terry. This is DG Lance here, coming to you as part of the Imagine Rotary 22-23 tour. And I'd like to introduce my special guest here as part of my home club visit at Bloomington, Indiana. For those of you who don't know, Judy was one of the founders of an organization called Teachers Warehouse in Bloomington that gives away free school supplies to local teachers. I mean, how cool is that? Judy, about how many teachers have you served over the past several years?
Oh, it's over 1,000 teachers that we've served from the public schools in 5 counties.
That is just awesome. Just imagine the impact that has for our communities here locally. So again, thank you, Judy, for all you've done. This is DG Lance here as from the home club of Bloomington, Indiana, as part of the Imagine Rotary 22-23 tour. Thank you for that brief entourage there. We like to try to, basically communicate a little bit of all the visits and everywhere that we've been. And again, welcome to Owen Johnson's family. Certainly, he was quite a Rotarian. In honor of Owen, as Jim mentioned, Owen got Jim Bright on Facebook. I would like to welcome all Rotarians to get on Facebook and basically go on. It's really easy. If you all pull out your phones, you could hit on the Facebook app and like both the Bloomington Rotary page and the district page, as we are trying to get more and more people involved in following Rotary and getting our story out there. So please do that for me, certainly in honor of Owen on that regards as well. Again, like to also give a shout out to, certainly as mentioned, I'm following many other Bloomington Rotarians in this role, and certainly Mr. Jim Bright Judy Witt, a couple of the mentors, and certainly Vivian, glad to have you here as part of Randy as well. These are all people that I've kind of followed in my Rotary journey and certainly have been mentors to me. And certainly we've had a strong district presence here over the years. Lauren Schneider, as mentioned, Ryla will be in person this year. So a big shout out for that. So any high school students that you know of, please let us know. Lauren's going to be helping coordinate that live as well. And then I also like to recognize Sarah Laughlin for being past AG for this area. So thank you again for your service. And we got Joy Harder, in person, on Zoom on that serves currently as our current assistant governor for this area. So again, thank you. As many mentioned, my name is Lance Eberle. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today. And really, as mentioned, Rotary's theme this year is Imagine Rotary. And certainly this is a very timely theme, as we are coming out of the pandemic and really beginning anew. So now is the time that we need to think of the possibilities and change that we can make both in transforming our communities, our clubs, and in the world. So very few times do we have the opportunity to kind of stop and hit the reset button that we do today. So imagine the possibilities that are before us there. Next slide, please. Obviously, the pandemic has put a new focus on individual and community health and taking care of our neighbors. And as Rotarians, we all know this all too well, as our efforts to eradicate the world of polio actually go back to September 1979, when Rotarians took part, in the first vaccination efforts to the children in the Philippines. We have certainly remained committed to our goal, and certainly now we are very much to that close to eradicating the world of this dreadful disease. But for those of you that run marathons, always know that the last mile is the hardest. And certainly that's taking place here today, as when I started my governor's speeches, at the beginning of October, we were only talking about 2 cases in the world today. And unfortunately, in the past month, we have had 11 additional cases take place in Pakistan, and we did have a case in the United States as well. And certainly there's traces of polio, wild polio viruses being out there now, and the samples taken from New York, in addition to London, from what I understand as well. But in order to continue that goal, we must continue to raise our, awareness of our polio efforts as we strive to get across the finish line, to a polio-free world. And that's why I think this year especially, it's now more important than ever that, we ask all of our clubs to come together around World Polio Day in October to continue to raise awareness and to raise funds for this noble effort so that we could truly get across the finish line. And certainly I know there's a lot of fun ideas and such that come about there. I've heard from things like the Purple Donuts, the Pine for Polios. And so certainly living in this club steam, we can make it fun as well. But I also want you to think and imagine about the legacy, that will leave. Not only will we be, behind the efforts to eradicate the world of this dreadful disease, but just think about the partnerships, collaborations, and such that have been formed as a result of these efforts, and think about how those, and imagine how those will be used in the future. And, we're certainly seeing this take place today in, the efforts of the COVID-19 vaccines and getting the vaccines out to the world. So that's certainly something as Rotarians that we could be very, very proud of. But as we assist, in the care of our world, let's not also forget about the great work that we do, within our communities. In this past year during, the 21-22 Rotary year, through our district grant programs, the Rotary clubs in this district have made a substantial contribution to the improvement of the communities that they exist in. This club, exposed a lot of children and their parents to the world cultures, certainly through the Lotus program. But we've also provided, resources for schools, for students experience emotional and social challenges. We introduced local children and families to, like I mentioned, the world cultures, and we provided library and art therapy to those kids recovering from human trafficking, abuse, and addiction issues. We provided a Safe Center program for siblings. We provided, all level books for first grade students in Title I schools, really just to name a few of the great efforts that this, this district and our clubs have done. And if you could imagine, that's all been done during the pandemic when, we couldn't really get close to each other. We had to stay on 6 feet, 6 feet apart, et cetera. But yet the good that we were able, to do, through our clubs. But however, in order to increase, and keep up our humanitarian services, we do need to continue the support of the Rotary Foundations. Programs like what I've just mentioned would have not been possible without the continued support of Rotarians that we have in this room. And so really over the next year, one of the things I'll be doing is reaching out to the clubs and really just asking you to beat your best. So I know as a district, our best per capita annual giving for the entire district was about $128 per capita. Unfortunately, with Jessica Hayne and Crook Bushy, I may have to raise it because I think they beat it last year. So we're going to have to probably up to about $135 per capita. But I would love to see all the members of the club contribute that to the, the Rotary International Foundation. And just think about the impact that would have, in the communities and the district grants that come back, to us. So to put that in perspective, that's really less than a cup of coffee a week. And in the case of Starbucks, it's probably less than a shot of coffee a week. But just think about the impact that could have in coming back, to our communities and the positive influences that we could have there. And certainly I'm proud to say that Jessica Hayne, that many of you know very well, is helping, continue to lead that goal. But if the foundation, the fuel is the fuel, our members are definitely the engine. Next slide. Next slide, please. So it may be surprising to some that Rotary doesn't really have a membership, attraction problem. We don't have issues with getting people to join Rotary. So if you look at it, they now say Rotary is about 1.4 million members, but that's with Rotaract coming in. The last time the data was compiled, we were about 1.2 million members, and Rotary in that year, had about 160,000 people join. Not bad. Problem is, during that same time frame, we had 170,000 people leave. And as you can see, most of those people will leave within the first 2 years of becoming a Rotarian. So attracting members is certainly important, as we do have to replace the natural attrition that you would have in any membership base. But if you do look at the data, we don't have a problem with that. And District 6580 is no different. For the last 5 years, when we compiled the data, we have about 1,500 members. In that same time frame, we lost 1,100 members. So certainly, we do have an engagement problem. So as Rotarians, we're going to need to continue to adapt and retool when it comes to membership. And, I would just say, think about what's taken place in our communities and how our communities have changed over the years. Bloomington, Indiana, I grew up with factories like General Electric, Otis Elevator, Westinghouse, and RCA Television, just to name a few. And you think about the first color production televisions that produced in the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, was produced right here in Bloomington, Indiana. But if you look around, none of those companies are here today. Now we have companies coming up like Cook Incorporated, Catalent, Baxter, Boston Scientific, to name a few. So many of those that when you went to get your COVID-19 vaccine, if you got Moderna or if you got Johnson & Johnson, probably came through Bloomington at some point during its journey. So as reflected by the numbers, the traditional way of doing things is not working. Finding the right part to engage each member should be our core function and key to growing our membership. And certainly I think this club is doing a lot to do that. And Brian Hayne, as part of the district membership team, would be willing to help you in any way that he can on that. But in that light, I wanted to really ask the club the following questions. Have you ever been in a situation or walked into a room that you felt out of place? That you maybe didn't look like other people that were there? Were you ever part of a board of directors or part of an organization that you went to a meeting asking, why am I here? That you just didn't feel valued or that your input was appreciated? Have you ever looked at your Rotary Club through the eyes of a non-Rotarian? and ask them what they feel Rotary is. Rotary vision statement says, together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe and in our communities and in ourselves. Together we see a world where people unite. As a district, in order to accomplish this, we need for Rotary to be a diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization. As a district in our clubs, we need to be committed to creating, supportive environments that foster open communication and shared learning. And I do recognize that this is not going to be an easy task. It's a Rotary experience that's varied from club to club, and the dynamics of our, structures, histories, and politics are certainly relevant. Many of our conversations are going to be difficult. However, we must recognize that being a diverse, and equitable and inclusive organization will enhance the experience that each member has in Rotary, allows us to carry out more meaningful and effective service efforts, and create an open, welcoming environment that appeal to people that have a servant's heart. And isn't that what a Rotarian is? Someone that has a servant's heart, that wants to make their communities and the world better than what it was, before they left. So my club experience, which we all know well, I'm probably kind of speaking to the choir here, but when I joined Rotary and joined the Tuesday Rotary Club, I was 30 years old. I was a young professional. I, didn't have a family. Certainly, I had a good life, didn't have a whole lot of obstacles that I had to overcome personally. But what did I see when I walked into the Rotary meeting? I walked into the club, the average age was 64. Is that going to be an obstacle? They're talking about, their get-togethers. I'm like, well, who won the football game last night? At that time, Rotary had a great fundraiser. It was called, you paid for your meals, whether you ate them or not. Could that be an obstacle for a young Rotarian coming into a club? Absolutely. And by the way, if you missed 2 meetings, you got a nastygram, from the club president asking you where you were at. Was that an obstacle? Absolutely. But I was very, very fortunate. I had a boss at the time when I was in banking by the name of Chin Rusi. He said, yeah, you are going to go to Rotary. He supported me through helping the payment of club dues. He supported me to allow me that hour and a half, to club meetings, to come to club meetings. I had people like, Brian Price that said, oh, you're a banker. Guess what? You're the next treasurer. I felt real valued then, when you signed the checks, they kind of listened to you. So that was pretty awesome. I had people like Yolanda, Jim Bright, when are you going to be, Rotary Club president, pulling me along the way. And so luckily, because I had that support and I had those people making me feel welcome, making me feel included and a part of an organization, I'm here speaking to you today. And so we could see how this all ties back to what Jennifer Jones says when she talks about the care and comfort of her members. We want all of our members to feel welcome, engaged, and valued for their contributions, and feel like they're making meaningful contributions. In return, we'll get a more engaged member, grow our membership, and do a heck of a lot more good in our communities. So I kind of ran across a quote by kind of a civic activist poet. Her name is Maya Angelou, and I think it really summed it up best. She said, I learned that people forget about what you said. People forget about what you did, but people never forget about how you made them feel. And isn't that what diversity, equity, and inclusion is all about? It's certainly not what we see on TV all the time, but it's really just making people feel welcome, making them feel like they're part of something. And certainly I think Rotary is really staffed to take the lead in that. And with that, I would like to, recognize certainly Jim Sims, who's part of that club, has been really part of that efforts, contributing in, as well as, Sue Wright down out of, I guess now it's the Clark County Club, that is also helping start those conversations. So with that, I would like to thank you certainly for the time and the honor that you bestowed on me here. I'm certainly here to be of service to you. And I think certainly the world needs Rotary now more than ever before. And we brought the world together in the past, and I think we could do it again. So again, thank you for your time.
Well, we're gonna, if any of you have any questions for Lance, we could have maybe one or two. So I don't know if anybody has any burning questions. Charlotte has a question. Why don't you ask it and then I can just repeat it from the podium.
If we have a divided world with not many trusted institutions, and I think Rotary has a lot of currency. In this divided world with a lot of pretentious institutions that are not trusted, Rotary is trusted. What role can we play in the world to bring things together?
Okay, so what role can Rotary play in a world that is divided?
You know, one of the Rotary mottos is really called, we try to build peace through understanding. And I think that's key. It's really trying to get people back together where we have dialogue. And, as Rotarians, we do that every day. We do that in our meetings. We do that, as a lot of our promotions. And as many of you know, the history of Rotary, we were very vital, in the formation of the United Nations. And so I think it's really taking that lead role, to building peace through understanding, to bring, the world together and just have that conversation. We don't all have to agree on everything, but certainly, hopefully we can respect each other for it. And I think Rotary is, key in doing that based on our four-way test and everything else that we do.
Thank you so much, Lance. It's really great to have you with us. And in honor of your presentation, we'll make a contribution to New Hope Families, which is a Bloomington organization founded in 2011, offering emergency housing to Monroe County families, keeping them together with adults and children of all ages and any composition. So it's a very enlightened organization. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to quickly give a shout out to Raj Hadawi as well, who's been so instrumental in supporting our diversity efforts. He and I had a fabulous conversation a few weeks back, and I'm excited to see where we go from there. As well as Dave Meyer. Dave Meyer has been helping us with membership in the club for a number of years now. And Dave, I want to just do a quick shout out to you as well. Okay, well, let's go ahead and say the four-way test. Michael, if you could bring it up on the screen. Let's recite the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? And one more quick mention that we didn't mention, we have a Bedford Rotary Scholar with us, Peyton Hyde. Thank you for being with us. Have a good week, everybody.